try to argue, Lee said, when you preach on some passage, try to add beauty to a rose. You know, you just have to live. I'll preach on 1 Corinthians 13. It's one of the most difficult passages that you'll ever try to do that. As a matter of fact, I looked in my sermon library and said if I had any, not a single person in all the books I've got preached on 1 Corinthians 13. It's like trying to add beauty to a rose. I can't think of any other definition or description of it. I'm just going to read it for you. If I speak in the tongues of men and angels, but have no love, I'm only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy, can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and surrender my body to the flames, but do not have love, I gain nothing. And it describes love. It says love is patient. Love is kind. Love does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. It does not delight in evil, but rejoices in the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always endures. Love never fails, but where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be still. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when perfection comes, the imperfect disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man or an adult, I put childish things behind me. Now we see through a poor reflection in a mirror, but then we will see face to face. Now I know in part, but then I will fully know, even as I am fully known. And now these three remain, faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love. Why are we on this planet? Number one, we are to accept the sacrifice of Jesus and claim his forgiveness of our sins. That's the first thing we need to do. Second thing, part of that is when we repent, is tell Jesus to help us live the kind of life that he wants us to live. And out of all the commandments of the Bible, love sums them all up. Love for God and love for your fellow man. It sums up all the commandments. I found this in 3 different places. In action, it is helping one another like the Good Samaritan did. It is also described as treat people the way you want to be treated. It's unconditional. You don't have to have a warm, affectionate feeling. You don't have to like a person, but you need to love them. Which Jesus says you do good, you pray for them, you don't want anything bad to happen to them, you do the best you can to get along. Like I've told my girls many, many times, you go along to get along. But just as important as what we do is how we do it. What kind of person we are. You know, a husband, he's supposed to provide for his family. Well, what if he has to have 2 jobs? So they can go on vacation once a year. So the kids perhaps can go to college. So he works 2 jobs. Wonderful. But if he comes home griping every day, if every time they break something, he throws it up in their face how hard he has to work for them. If he has no time for them, but he does have time for TV and golf on Saturday, has no time to play with the kids, no time for his wife, he's not a good person. Doesn't do him any good. It's not just what you do, it's how you do it. You know, women can cook. I guess women are supposed to cook, provide meals. There's a whole lot of ways to provide meals. One way is just get a can of beans, I love to do this. I do this all the time. Just get you a can of beans, throw it in a bowl, stick it in the microwave, 2 minutes, you got yourself some beans. Everything else is like that. But I used to love it the way, I know you ladies do the same thing when company came over. I've got something in my closet, kitchen cabinet I told you about. I got 3 cartons of orange juice. No pulp, some pulp, lots of pulp. Mary Ann's trying to please those grandkids. And her kids, she did the same thing with our children. But loving it. So it's not just what we do, it's what we are And this is difficult because this is the hardest thing for us to do. We can change our habits. We can stop drinking. We can stop cursing. We can stop telling lies. We can do all these things, you know. We slip up sometimes, but by and large, we stop most of these things after we're converted. But we stay who we are our whole lives. God doesn't change that much. For example, the Catholics used to say, give me a child till he's 6 years old, you can have him for the rest of your life. Modern psychology, little book as the twig is bent, says at age 3, a child has his personality. He's the kind of person he's going to be for the rest of his life. He cannot change the kind of person that he is, but he can work on it. I tell girls, I go real deep in marriage counseling. Girls, if you marry a bum, you're going to live with a bum. You're not going to change a bum. You can't do anything with lazy. You can't do anything with, some people are chronic worriers. Some people are irritable all the time. Some people can't take criticism. You name it. Now in our marriage, sometimes with the girls, I've always done this. Mom will do something and the girls will get all ticked off. I say, honey, that's just your mama. You ever said it? Oh, honey, that's just your mama. She don't mean anything by it. And then when I get all ticked off, they'll say, Daddy, that's just mama. That's just mama. And you know, Mary Ann is the kind of person that she was when I first met her. But you know, that is the hardest thing to change. I went to a Nashville seminar with a preacher friend my first year as a pastor. And part of that seminar was on a personality test. And so we took this personality test, and this guy, I went to a guy, he's a friend of mine in Jackson, Georgia. We went together, a little old Volkswagen. And we got up there and we took the test. And then the guy looked at me and he said, he looked at him and said, when somebody drives up in your driveway, you say, oh boy, there's Bill. Hey Bill, man, I've been not wanting to see you. He looked at me and said, when he drives up in your driveway, you think, what's he want? And that's exactly right. I don't want to be interrupted. C.S. Lewis said, I do not want, before I met Christ, I said, I do not want to be interrupted. He also told us something else. He said, now, he told that guy, you can go down to the cafe and stay all morning talking to people. He said, but you have a hard time studying. You have to make yourself study. You don't study till Saturday night most of the time. When you have to have a sermon, you go in and start studying. He said, Bob, you can spend all week in your study. 8 hours a day in your study. I could. So he said, Bob, you need to get out more, go to cafes more, and you need to study more. So I learned right then, we judge people, but people are basically who they are and what they are. Now you can change. You have to work on it. It's hard, and you slip back in more than anything else will. But I think about C.S. Lewis, he did not want to be interrupted. He had things to do. But then I learned when I read about his life, he answered every personal letter ever written to him, and he did it by hand. You can change. You can change. We all need to wear a badge across, get your t-shirt and put on it. PBPWMGIFNY. Please be patient with me. God is not finished with me. And so we have to put up with this thing. And sometimes people look at them and think we can help it, but a lot of times we can't. But we can improve and we can change. So what I want to do this morning, you can't define love. You can only describe it. These words that are used here, I have the hardest time. Some of them mean the same thing. What's the difference in being proud and bragging? But it's two different things. How do you define kindness? What does it mean to be kind? So I'm going to try my best to do this today, so y'all be patient with me. Number one, love is patient. And it means patient with people. Don't ever pray for patience. Trouble produces patience. You say, oh God, give me patience. Your kid's going to get as meaner than he's ever been before in his life. You're going to get a secretary that drives you up the wall, drives you crazy. It's very difficult to be patient with people. We want to say, hurry up. Why is it taking you so long? Won't you ever learn? We say that all the time. We live in a fast society. We want patience and we want it right now. One guy said in the olden days, we'd wait 2 weeks on a stagecoach. Now we get upset if we miss one cubicle of a revolving door. Everything is done in a hurry now, in a hurry. So it's going to take a lot of effort to be patient with people. Then you got to do it in a kind way. You're patient, but you're also kind. All I can do now is tell you a story. It's a story about there was a big mission in Brooklyn, New York for years and years that every day had a warm meal for the homeless. And it was run by a fine Christian named Sam Hadley. Now, a familiar face in that Brooklyn mission was an old major. And they make them go to church and then they eat afterwards. And Sam would work hard on his messages, and old major would go to sleep. Not only would he sleep, he would snore. It sounded like he's sawing a log. By the way, and a lady in Concord told her husband, you might as well quit coming. Said, I don't mind you falling asleep, but you embarrass me with the way you snore. That's the truth if I ever told it in my life. Some of you might guess who it is. I just watched him go to sleep every Sunday, so don't bother me. But anyhow, he snored and he slept. One day the preacher, when the service was over, he didn't even let him eat. He picked him up by the collar, took him to the door, and said, get out of here, man. Don't come after you can quit going to sleep and quit snoring in my service. We've all felt like doing stuff like that. But if you like Sam Hadley, he got to bother him. I should not have done that. So he left in the middle of the night and went looking for old Major. He finally found him in an alley. And he took the newspapers off, woke him up and said, Major, my brother, I'm so sorry for what I did. Come on with me and I'll give you a hot supper. Old Major's eyes lit up and he said, say it again. Say it again. He said, well, yeah, just come on, I'll give you a hot supper. He said, that's not what I'm talking about. What are you talking about? I said, you call me your brother. Who gives himself with his arms, feeds three. Himself, his hungry neighbor, and me. It's how you do it, folks. It's how you do it. This is the oldest illustration that I've ever heard in my life, and you've all heard it. This guy was going down the road, walking down the road, and he saw a little boy with a crippled boy on his back. He was carrying a little crippled boy. And the crippled boy was bigger than the little boy that was carrying him. And a guy said, son, that is a heavy load for a little boy. He said, he ain't heavy, he's my brother. That's patience. That's patience. So you look at every human being. Now, evangelism, the same way. I'm going to talk about Kathy now. The best way to win people to Christ is to love them, help them, do something for them. We had a lady years ago who was thinking about committing suicide. Her husband committed suicide. She had been to church in years. That lady, our ladies ministered to her, helped her, took care of her. She became one of my best friends, and she moved away. I never will forget, she came back one time. I said, are you still going to church? She said, not only am I going to church, I'm tithing. I don't know why she said that, but that showed me. She said, yes, Preacher Bob, I am. She was loved to Jesus. She was loved to Jesus. I like to say it, and it's true, about witnessing. People don't know, people don't care how much you know. They want to know how much you care. That's the Lord's truth, baby. Some soul winners just lay it out there like, buying a car or truck or something. We need to befriend them And you know, a lot of this soul winning was a one-time preaching session. You know, if they don't accept Christ, don't fool with them anymore. We had a guy in this town told people, if you've been coming to this church for 2 years, don't come back and have not accepted the Lord. You can guess who it was. Can you imagine that? If y'all been coming 2 years and listening to me, and you haven't accepted the Lord, don't come back. Love is not jealous. It does not envy. It does not envy. I don't know how this fits into loving people. This is a hard phrase for me, jealous and envy for loving people. All I can do is give you an illustration from high school. A guy named Jimmy, I was Jimmy, I'm Bobby, and he's Jimmy. They called us the Gold Dust Twins. He was the right halfback and I was the left half. They had two backs in that day. The fullback, we had three backs in the old days. He was the right halfback, I was the left halfback. And we worked together, we stayed together. We worked every Saturday, we worked for his daddy on his farm. Every Friday night I spent the night with them. They were like a mother and father to me. I loved them. They treated me so nice. I don't have a dad. Didn't have a dad. But I loved them. I loved the family. I loved the way she cooked the eggs. I let flat out cook the eggs. Now, I don't like awards in high school. Sue me or shoot me. I don't want to be recognized. I don't like that. Well, the word got out that Jimmy and I, one of us was going to get most popular, and one of us was going to get the most athletic. And so she told somebody, I don't know why they told me, she told somebody, said, well, the best thing, I hope Jimmy gets the most popular. It's better to be popular. And maybe Bobby will get the most athletic. Well, you know the rest of the story. I got it backwards. I got most athletic. But anyhow, he got most popular, and I got most athletic, so she changed her tune. She said, I'd rather he got this. I never liked her again. I still remember that. Who cares? Amen. Somebody give me that. We need to love the guy that can't make the team. We love the guy that can't even make water boil. Just because you can run with a football, or just because you can hit a baseball 400 feet, that does not make you better than anybody. Somebody else did that. The athletes in college, we call them jocks. They just walk around like this all the time. I'm going to tell y'all something you didn't know. There's two men who hold the record in the state of Florida for yards per carry running with a football. 12 yards per carry. Both of them average 12 yards. Jess Moody told this story. I ain't checked it out, but he usually tells the truth. 12 yards a carry. One of them was Burt Reynolds. The other one was Adrian Rogers. Now you can listen, I've listened to 100 Adrian Rogers sermons. You can listen to all that man's sermons. He never tells you they play football. That's just something he did. That doesn't make him a good person. This is something else. You ladies may not like this, but this is very interesting. If you name the top 5 of baseball players of all time, the top 5, there's 2 guys that most people will put in there. One is Ty Cobb, a lifetime batting average of over 360, and the other one is Shoeless Joe Jackson. Ty Cobb lives 30 miles from us down in Georgia. Shoeless Joe lives 30 miles from us in Greenville, South Carolina. They're that close to us. And when Shoeless Joe died, he had a niece that worked with him. She loved it like her daddy. She did not have her dad, so he was her daddy. And she worked with him. And she said, when they started praising him about being Shoeless Joe Jackson, she said, I didn't even know he played baseball. I didn't even know he played baseball. That didn't make him who he was, you see. So at any rate, we don't need to, what was this about? You know, I can't stand peacocks. You ever heard a peacock holler? Scare you to death. And they just throw them arms, let wings out, they shake their old head, and all that stuff on look like flowers, and they just multicolored. Look at me. Well, that's what we talk about, proud as a peacock. Bible says God hates a proud look. You can tell a proud person. The face, the mannerisms, they're rude to you. That's the next one. They're rude to you. You know, why are you telling me? I already know that. You've been around them. It's all over their bodies. Spurgeon said some Christians want their name in the headline if they kill a lightning bug for Jesus. So you got the proud look. Then you've got the proud mouth. You know, you can't really whip your grandchildren. You can't really, Mary Ann did all the whipping for the girls. Of course, I quit believing in whipping when the grandkids was born. I changed my mind about that. But I know I've told them all at one time or another. They'll brag about something. And they'll do it again. And they'll do it again. And I always look at them and I say, look, nobody likes a bragger. Nobody likes a bragger. Because when you brag, you're putting that person down. It always did to me, somebody bragging about what they're doing. I can't do that to you. But nobody likes a person who brags. I love it. I love it when a church member will give me money and say, help this poor person. Buy these kids a bicycle. But don't tell anybody. I love that. The guy gave me $10,000 a year for poor people in Concord. Every year, $10,000. And he said, just spend it on poor people. And so I did. And I'd give him a record. He don't send me a record, Bob. If I didn't trust you, I wouldn't let you do it. So we built ramps for senior citizens. He's going down the road one day and saw some black people outside a burned down church. He built him a church. He was a millionaire. Didn't ever join our church, but he'd come on Sundays and sit up there in the balcony. Every year, $10,000. Every year. I'm going to be honest, y'all. If I do something like that, I want to tell somebody about it. I want somebody to know that I give somebody some money. It's the hardest thing in this world for me not to brag about that. But anyhow, the first thing ever published about for me was in my bulletin in Haddock, Georgia. I had just started, and we did a bulletin every week, and I put a story in every bulletin that I sent out. And so one day I was reading a publication of Southern Baptists, and it was had my story in there. And it said a pastor in South Carolina wrote this, and so he sent it to this magazine, and they published it. You know what the title of it was? Christians have bad days too. Not many preachers are going to say that, but we do. We get up on the wrong side, of the bed just like you do. When we come home sometimes, the kids take off running. Love is not selfish. The number one, anger does it, but the number one problem in an American home is selfishness. I want. I'm number one. All these are prideful, but the important thing is what I get. I tell people, if you go into marriage saying, he's going to make me happy, and the wife goes into marriage, husband says, she's going to make me happy, you're not going to make it. If you want a good marriage, go into that marriage saying, I'm going to do everything in my power to make life easy for my husband. I'm going to do everything I can do to let him know that I care. And if I'll give 75% if he'll just give 25%. Same thing with a husband. If you will say that, you'll have the perfect marriage. Because each one of you is going to try to be making life easier for the other person. Now, I told you about Mary Ann's 3 kinds of orange juice. But I couldn't get her to get things for herself. She'd do that for everybody else. I said, honey, you like so-and-so and so-and-so. Why don't you do that? Well, they don't really like that. Who cares? My mother, God bless her, she had a whole lot of thoughts like me. She was kind of mean. But she had a heart of gold. She would give you the last penny she ever had. When we first got married, we didn't have a whole lot of money. That little old church in Georgia didn't pay much. Mary Ann had to go work in the grocery store. She had to learn to speak Georgian. And my mother started giving us stuff. She'd come visit us and see something we needed. And she'd buy it. We said, Mama, don't do that. And she would be home without it. The perfect example was the color TV. Mama loved to watch TV. She'd get home from work. That's about all she had to do was watch TV. And so she had no black and white TV. One Christmas, she gave us a big old color TV. Now, the hardest thing in the world to do is to turn down a gift. Somebody gives you something, take it. Take it. But Mary and I talked about this, and so what we did was said, Mama, you are so good to us. You buy us so much, but we're not going to take anything else like this unless you buy you one too. We're going to give you this TV, and we're not going to turn it on unless you go buy you a color TV. And so my mother was unselfish. And to me, she was showing her love the best way that she could. And here's what I didn't want to preach on. Love is not irritable. I was born here. I told this in a sermon one day, and the girls ran up to me. I said, Mary Ann and I had to go to marriage counseling last week. And I said, but he talked to her first, and then he was going to talk to me. So when she went in there first, he said, ma'am, do you wake up grouchy every morning? She said, no, I let that man sleep. That's in my DNA. I've got to where now I keep my mouth shut, but my body language speaks volumes. One of my daughters, I started calling her, one of my daughters same way. You tick her off, you gonna know it. I said, calm down, I can't take criticism. You criticize me, I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna be mad when you do it, then I'm gonna go home and think about it, and then you're right. I just can't take it. One time, Mary Ann, her and I were fussing about something. She said, Bob, you just can't take criticism, can you? I said, why don't you tattoo that on my forehead? Bob cannot take criticism. I wish I could, but I can't. I tried. When Mary Ann's dad died in Fort Worth, Texas, the guy did the funeral who never knew it, knew nothing about it. So I went in about that morning, and I said, I'd like about 10 minutes of your time. I want to tell you who Charlie was. So I took about 10 minutes. That man did not want me there. He did not say a word. He was doing this, doing that foot. Yeah. I never forgot that. And I wonder how many times have my church members seen me like that. It's a miracle I stayed 31 years. It's by the grace of God, by the grace of a lot of church members. But at any rate, not here. Next one is, keep no record of wrongs. Don't keep a list of things people have done to you. Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward, I think they stayed married for 40 years. And he was called the most handsome man in Hollywood back then, but anyhow, they stayed married for 40 years. One of the few couples that did that, had a good marriage. And they asked him one time, said, how'd y'all do it? He said, one good fight a month. One good fight a month. He said, sometimes you just got to get mad and say stuff you need to say. Get it out there. And I found that with Mary Ann. Now, sometimes we do that. I didn't realize that they do it. So, I hope she did the same way. But sometimes you just get it out and deal with it. But anyhow, that's what he said. The other guy said, you know, when me and my wife fuss and she gets hysterical. Gets hysterical. He said, don't you mean hysterical? No, she gets hysterical. What do you mean? Well, we'd be talking about something. She said, I didn't like what you did at the wedding meeting 21 years ago. You got to stick with the issue. When you have a good argument with your wife, stay with the issue. And never attack the person. Never. If a kid maxes out your credit cards, don't you care anything about your mom and daddy? Don't you know how much we work for that money? You ought to just be ashamed of yourself. You're attacking the Lord. I learned this from a Jewish writer on raising children. He said, give me that credit card. You take that credit card, you cut it up about 40 pieces, put it in, and just stand up and throw it in their face. You'll never get another, and just holler as loud as you can. They can take that, but don't attack the person. That's good advice. I give that in my marriage counseling too, because so often we attack the person. You're just lazy. You're just this. Don't ever say that. You're putting a brick in a big old wall between you and him to do that. Keep no record of wrongs. I've learned to do this. I've learned to do okay when people do me wrong. I've had people do me wrong. People in my family done me wrong. Just like you. Friends have done me wrong. And I've learned to deal with that. You know what? I think about the people I've done wrong. The guy does something to me, and I say, oh man, I did the same thing to Billy. I did the same thing to my mom. And so don't keep a record of wrongs. Except let today be the first day of the rest of your life. I'm talking fast. I thought you were saying the last 2 hours. Here's another hard one. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in the truth. That's hard to understand. So most people say, well, that's just the truth of the Bible. It does not delight when people break God's laws in the Bible, but they rejoice when people keep God's laws, do God's laws. This is pride. We love it. Preachers love it. Some of us love it when another preacher does wrong. Why? It makes us look good. Somebody else does wrong. Well, hey, I'm not that kind of preacher. I'm not like that. And you know what the weapon that a proud person uses? Gossip. Gossip. I tell somebody. When I tell somebody, you know, if you talk about this guy, all the wrongs that he did that you're trying to help, but for the grace of God, you'd be doing that too. You rejoice. And then the last part is kind of difficult, but love bears all things. This is 1 Corinthians 13 is how Jesus treats us. Bears all things, that means you bear with people. You take them horns and all. I know my wife bore with me. I know I bore with her, some of the things about her. But Jesus does us the same way. Like, it believes all things. You never give up hoping somebody's going to change. One of the wildest disciples Jesus had was Simon Peter. Up one day and down the next. Up one day and down the next. And when we first met him, he said, Peter, I'm going to give you a nickname, Rocky. Peter, you're a rock. He was saying, I believe in you, Peter. I believe in you. And remember when he said that you were going to deny me, that you know me? He said, when you come back. He didn't say if you come back. He knew Simon Peter would come back. And Simon Peter did come back and became a preacher. Pentecost. Love endures because treating people right is a way of life. It's not something you do. It's somebody that you are. You try your best to treat people like they ought to be treated. I'm always thinking, I bet I prayed this 1,000 times. God, you took your hand off of me. God, am I just out here on my own and you just forgot all about me as a preacher? You know why I say that? Because that's what I deserve. I think I deserve it. I don't know, but and then I say, well, what I'm saying is, if I were you, I'd be put off with me. Love is also the greatest. I'm going to close with an epitaph that you put on the tombstone in St. Paul's Cathedral. You got to be a real good Christian to be buried in the cemetery of St. Paul's Cathedral. And this was a guy named General Charles Gordon. And here's what it said. To the memory of Charles Gordon, who at all times and everywhere gave his strength to the weak, his substance to the poor, his sympathy to the suffering, and his heart to God. Most of you have stopped most of your bad habits. And you do a lot of good things like me, but let's try to do it the right way. Not looking down on anybody we help. Not bragging about it. Just doing it because you love the Lord. Do it because the Lord treats you that way, and also do it because you love them. You want to help them. You may not like them, but you want to help them. Let's bow together. Father, thank you so much for this faith you put in us to be called your children. Sometimes, Lord, we don't feel like we deserve to be called your children. But Lord, you never think that of us. You believe in us. Lord, when we make a mess of our lives, you don't think we've done a permanent job. You still believe in us, and you still hope for us. Father, we thank you when we get to heaven. None of this is going to even be remembered. The struggles we had with our wife, our husband, our mother, our father, everything up there is going to be love, Lord. Paul said we will know as we are known. And so we'll know each other with nothing but love and understanding. And I thank you for that, Lord. That's going to be one of the greatest blessings in heaven. I pray this in Jesus' name.